So guys, you know what the situation's been with this receiver room for a while now. Year after year, we'd get one guy who'd show out and then just nothing behind him. Nobody else stepping up, nobody else scaring a defense. And with Aaron Rodgers coming in for what could be his last run in this league, you can't hand a guy like that the same broken room and just hope it works out. So this offseason, Mike McCarthy went out and did something about it. And honestly, it wasn't just one move, it was a few of them stacked together. I'm going to break down exactly who's in this room, what each guy brings, and why I think this is the best shape this offense has been in for years. What's up? Welcome back to the Steelers. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So guys, let's really dig into why this receiver room has been such a headache for this team for so long, because I think it puts everything else into perspective. If I'm being honest with you, the biggest issue with this offense the last few years hasn't been the offensive line, it hasn't been the running game, it's been the receivers. And look, you don't have to take my word for it, just look at the numbers. Last year, this team had exactly one receiver crack 400 yards. One. Nobody hit 1,000. The year before that, same story. Nobody hit 1,000 yards either. And when you think about George Pickens, a guy who leaves this building and immediately turns into an all-pro caliber receiver somewhere else, that tells you everything you need to know. It wasn't that the talent wasn't there, it's that there was never enough around him to make defenses actually respect this passing game. And honestly, if you want to go back and find the last time this team had a real trio at receiver, you got to go all the way back to 2020. That was Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Deontay Johnson. Three guys, all with at least 800 yards that year. You even had James Washington as a deep threat, chipping in more yards than our number 2 guy did just last season. Think about that for a second. A depth piece from 2020 outproduced our starting number 2 receiver from last year. That's how far this thing has fallen off. And after that, I mean, you had flashes here and there. Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool had a solid stretch together, but then injuries got in the way. Then you had Deontay Johnson and a rookie, George Pickens, both cracking 800 yards, which honestly was pretty good, but Claypool gets traded mid-season, and that third piece never really solidifies. Then you bring in Allen Robinson the next year to try and be that number 3 guy, and he ends up with 280 yards and 0 touchdowns as a full-time starter. 0. So really, for years now, you've basically been running this offense with 2 functional receivers and just hoping for the best.
Now here's where I get genuinely excited, guys, because I think this year is different. I think this is the best shot this room has had since that 2020 group. And it starts with DK Metcalf. And what he brings that this team hasn't had in years is that true field stretching element. The guy runs a legit 4.3 at his size, which is honestly kind of unfair when you think about it. That's the kind of speed that forces a safety to respect the top of the route tree every single snap. And once you got that respect, everything underneath opens up. But it's not just a speed thing with him either. He's a load after the catch. You get him the ball in space over the middle, and he is a truck. I mean, go back and watch that touchdown run he had against the Vikings last year if you want proof. That's screens, that's slants, that's digs, and then obviously the deep posts and the fades on top of it. So you're getting a guy who can beat you 3 different ways, not just one. Then you flip over to Michael Pittman Jr., and this is a completely different flavor of receiver, which honestly is exactly what you want next to a guy like Metcalf. He's more of that savvy, chain-moving type, really smart route runner, knows how to sit down in zones, finds the soft spot in coverage. And physically, he's just tough at the catch point. This is a guy who's going to go up and win contested balls in the red zone, which, let's be real, this team has not had in a long time. And when you talk about Aaron Rodgers, a guy who has always loved that back shoulder throw, Pittman is exactly the type of receiver who can go up and finish those plays. So on your tough down situations, your third and mediums, your red zone snaps, this is the guy Rodgers is going to trust to just go make a play. Now let's get to the rookie, because I think Germie Bernard might end up being one of the more underrated storylines of this whole offense this year. He's a bigger slot guy who can also kick outside, so there's real versatility there. He can line up anywhere and run pretty much any route from any alignment, which as a rookie is actually pretty rare. And what really stands out to me is his vision after the catch. It's almost running back-like, honestly. He's got that spatial awareness where he knows exactly where the defenders are and how to squeeze every last yard out of a play. And here's the thing that really gets me fired up about this pairing. Rodgers has historically had a tough time building chemistry with young receivers early in their careers, just because most rookies don't know how to be pros yet. But from what I've seen with Germie Bernard, he already carries himself like a guy who's been in the league a few years. Smart, tough, prepared. That's exactly the kind of rookie who can actually earn that trust early instead of needing a whole season to get there. And then you also got to mention Roman Wilson in this mix because I think he's going to play a specific role too. He's more of that smaller, field-stretching slot piece. I'm not saying he's putting up 500 yards or anything crazy, but he's going to be that guy who keeps the slot honest and forces nickel corners to respect his speed. So between Metcalf stretching it from the outside and Wilson stretching it from the slot, you're actually putting stress on a defense from multiple spots on the field at the same time, which is something this offense simply hasn't had in a long time.
And I can't talk about this passing game without bringing up Pat Freiermuth, because honestly, he might end up being one of the most important pieces in this whole thing. He's going to be that seam threat that Rodgers and this staff love to dial up, especially against certain coverages. When defenses are so focused on Metcalf on the outside and Pittman underneath, that seam window for Freiermuth could end up being wide open a lot more than people expect. So when you step back and look at this whole group together, this is what gets me excited. You got Metcalf as your true outside speed threat, Pittman as your reliable possession guy who wins contested catches, Freiermuth working the seams, and then Bernard and Wilson rounding it out with versatility and speed from different alignments. That's not just one guy trying to do everything by himself anymore. That's a genuine rotation where everybody's got a specific job. And for a quarterback like Rodgers, who processes the field about as fast as anybody who's ever played this position, giving him multiple real options instead of just one guy to force the ball to, that's exactly the kind of situation where he thrives. Now, I do want to be honest with you because I don't think this room is completely without risk. There's really two things that worry me a little bit heading into the season. First one, can Germie Bernard and Roman Wilson both actually hit as legit contributors? Because if either one of them doesn't pan out, you're really only left with 3 trustworthy receivers on this roster. And second, what happens if one of those top 3 guys gets banged up? Right now, behind them, you're looking at names like your depth guys who honestly haven't proven much of anything at this level yet. So if there's an injury to one of the top 3, that's a real concern for depth. Now, do I think Pittsburgh goes out and adds another veteran receiver before the season kicks off? Honestly, if you're asking me right now, I'd lean toward no. I think this front office wants to see what they actually have in camp first with Bernard and Wilson before they go spend more resources on the position. But I wouldn't rule it out either, because if either of those 2 guys doesn't look ready, there's always going to be veteran options available on the market as camp goes on. But at the end of the day, guys, when I look at this receiver room compared to what we've had the last several years, this is genuinely the best version of it since 2020. You got a true field stretcher, a reliable possession guy, a tight end who can work the seams, and 2 younger pieces who both bring something different to the table. It might not be flashy enough to be the best room in the whole league, but it's complementary, and for a quarterback like Rodgers in what could be his final run, complementary might be exactly what gets this offense humming the way we've all been waiting for.